What if I told you that the single biggest expense on most small farms, the feed bill, could be cut by anywhere from 40 to 75% starting this week, with nothing more than a bag of grain, a plastic tray, and water? No special equipment. No electricity required. No soil. No garden space. No waiting months for plants to establish. Just seed. Water. 7 days. And the greenest, most nutritious livestock feed your animals have ever eaten. Ready every single morning, year-round, no matter what the weather is doing outside. That system is called a fodder system. And in this video, I am going to show you exactly how it works, how to build one for under $50, how to avoid the one mistake that causes mold and ruins most people's first attempt, and the exact numbers, verified and real, for how much this will save you every single month. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, this is the place for practical, honest homesteading built for real people on real budgets. Last week, we walked through the complete 1/2-acre homestead income system, the layout, the livestock, the income streams. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the description. Today, we're going deep on one of the 5 feed systems I mentioned in that video, fodder. And if you've been running a flock of chickens, a pair of goats, some quail, or any combination of backyard livestock, this video has the potential to change your monthly expenses significantly. Here's everything we're going to cover today. First, what fodder actually is, what happens nutritionally when grain sprouts, and why your animals will always choose it over dry feed when given the choice. Second, which grains work best for a small homestead system, ranked by ease, nutrition, cost, and availability. Third, the complete step-by-step setup. How to build a working fodder tray system for under $50 using materials most people can find locally this week. Fourth, the daily routine. I'm going to walk you through exactly what 7 minutes of work per day looks like to run a system that feeds a 25-bird flock. Fifth, feeding rates. Exactly how much fodder to feed each species, so you're not wasting seed or underfeeding. And sixth, the troubleshooting section. Mold, slow sprouting, animals refusing it, and every other problem you might run into, and the verified solutions for each one. Stay all the way to the end, because I am also going to share the one adjustment that most people don't know about at all, but eliminates the mold problem. It's simple. It costs almost nothing, and it works. Let's start at the beginning, because understanding what fodder actually is will help you understand why it works. And that understanding is what makes the difference between a homesteader who sticks with the system and one who quits after 2 weeks. Fodder is simply grain that has been sprouted in shallow trays over 7 to 10 days and fed to livestock as a complete unit, roots, seed, and green blades all together. That's it. You are not growing hay. You are not farming. You are triggering a biological process that is already inside the seed, and then feeding the result. Here is what happens when a grain seed sprouts. In its dry state, a grain like barley has its nutrients stored in a locked-down complex form. The enzymes, proteins, and starches are bound in ways that make them harder for an animal's digestive system to break down and use. Think of it like a suitcase with a padlock on it. Everything you need is in there, but it's not fully accessible. Or when you add water and warmth, the seed begins to germinate. The plant's own enzymes activate and begin breaking those complex compounds down into simpler, more available forms. Starches convert into sugars. Proteins become more bioavailable. Enzyme activity increases dramatically. The plant literally pre-digests itself in preparation for rapid growth. The nutritional result is significant. Barley, the most researched and most widely used fodder grain, starts with a crude protein content of around 12.7% as a dry seed. After 7 days of sprouting, that crude protein rises to approximately 15.5%. More importantly, the digestibility of that protein, how much of it the animal can actually absorb and use, increases from around 40% to approximately 80%. That data comes from research published through the University of Minnesota's West Central Research and Outreach Center, which has been running verified fodder trials. What this means in practice is that your animals get significantly more usable nutrition from a pound of sprouted fodder than from a pound of dry grain. Even though the dry weight of the fodder is technically lower, because sprouted feed is approximately 78% water, so 7-day sprouted barley grass also contains notably higher levels of vitamin E and beta-carotene compared to dry seed. Both of these nutrients directly affect egg yolk color, immune function, and the quality of goat milk. This is why chickens and goats fed fodder consistently show richer egg yolks, healthier coats, and improved milk quality. It is not marketing. It is biochemistry. And here is the practical benefit that matters for your feed bill. Because the nutrition is more bioavailable, the animals naturally consume less total dry matter to meet their nutritional needs. Studies and real-world results from homesteaders consistently show a 30 to 50% reduction in the amount of dry commercial feed needed when fodder is incorporated properly into the diet. One micro farm that has documented their results publicly reported cutting feed costs by 75% after transitioning their laying hens, quail, and rabbits to a 90% sprouted barley fodder diet over a full year. Their egg yolks were richer, their animals were healthier, and their feed bill dropped dramatically. Now, let's talk about which grain to use. The 3 grains most commonly used for homestead fodder systems are barley, wheat, and oats. Each has its strengths and weaknesses. Let me break them down so you can choose the right one for your situation. Barley. The gold standard. Barley is the most recommended fodder grain across homesteader experience, university research, and commercial fodder operations worldwide, and for very good reason. It germinates reliably. It sprouts evenly. It produces the densest, most consistent mat of any of the common fodder grains. Its crude protein content after sprouting is the highest of the 3 at approximately 15.5%. Research from the University of Minnesota confirms that barley fodder has the highest forage quality of the common fodder grains and the highest calcium content, both highly valuable for laying hens and milking does. 1 pound of barley seed produces approximately 6 pounds of sprouted fodder mat after 7 days. That is a 6-to-1 return on your seed investment just from the addition of water, to 30 cents per pound of seed, which to 30 cents per pound of seed, which produces 6 pounds of fodder for 30 cents. That is 5 cents per pound of fodder, compared to 35 cents to 55 cents per pound for quality commercial laying pellets. One important note: buy feed-grade whole-grain barley, not malted barley from a brewing supply store. Malted barley has been heat-treated and will not sprout reliably. You want raw, untreated, whole-kernel barley. Wheat, an excellent alternative. Whole wheat is the second best choice for a homestead fodder system, and in some regions of the U.S., it is easier to find and less expensive than barley. Hard red wheat performs particularly well for fodder. It germinates reliably, produces a good mat, and has a slightly higher starch content than barley, which some animals, particularly growing animals, benefit from. Its crude protein content is comparable to barley, and university research notes that triticale and wheat have the greatest crude protein content of the common fodder grains when evaluated at the 7-day harvest point. A 50-pound bag of whole wheat from a feed store or mill in most U.S. regions costs $10 to $16, similar to barley. One homesteader documented getting 25 days of feed for a small mixed flock from a single $10.60 bag of whole wheat, at a cost of under 43 cents per tray, compared to $26 or more in commercial feed for the same period. Oats. Use with caution. Oats will work, and some homesteaders use them successfully, particularly when oats are all that is locally available. However, oats are notably more prone to mold than barley or wheat. The outer hull of an oat groat retains moisture in a way that creates ideal conditions for mold to develop if drainage is not perfect. If you are just starting your first fodder system, do not start with oats. Start with barley or wheat, learn the drainage and watering rhythm, and only add oats later if you have the system fully dialed in. If you do use oats, soak them for 1 hour maximum, not the 12 to 24 hours used for barley and wheat. And over-soaking oats is one of the primary reasons they mold. Can you mix grains? Yes, and many experienced fodder growers do. A barley and wheat blend in a 70-30 or 60-40 ratio gives you the matte density and nutritional profile of barley with the protein boost of wheat. Some homesteaders also add black oil sunflower seeds to the mix for additional fat and to increase palatability, particularly for chickens and quail who love sunflower seeds. Start with straight barley for your first 2 to 4 weeks until you have the system working consistently. Then experiment from there. All right, let's build the system. Everything I'm about to describe is field-tested, works in a real homestead setting, and costs under $50 to assemble using materials available at any hardware store, dollar store, or Amazon. What you need: a metal wire shelving unit. The standard 5-tier chrome wire shelf units commonly sold at big box stores for $35 to $50 work perfectly. Look for one that is at least 14 inches deep and 36 inches wide with adjustable shelf heights. You want at least 4 to 5 shelves working at any time. Sprouting trays. You need shallow trays, approximately 2 inches deep, with drainage holes. The most cost-effective option is standard 1020 greenhouse propagation trays, available at garden centers for $1 to $3 each. You will need 1 tray per day of your system. So for a 7-day system, you need 7 trays minimum. Buy 10 to have extras for rinsing and rotation. Drill the holes yourself. Use a 1/8 inch drill bit and put 1 hole approximately every 1.5 to 2 inches across the bottom of each tray. You want good drainage, not too few holes that water pools, and not so many that seeds fall through. A large jar or bowl for soaking. Any container that holds at least a gallon of water works. Yeah, and some people prefer wide-mouth mason jars. Others use mixing bowls. You can also use a second tray for soaking. Barley seed. As discussed, buy a 50-pound bag of feed-grade whole barley from a local feed store, co-op, or online. Budget $15 to $20. Water. That's it. This system uses nothing but water, no fertilizer, no soil, no grow lights required, although ambient indoor light or a window is helpful. A location between 63 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is the optimal sprouting temperature range, confirmed by Mother Earth News and multiple university sources. A garage, spare bathroom, enclosed porch, or utility room in most U.S. homes will stay within this range for most of the year. Below 60 degrees, germination slows significantly. Above 80 degrees, mold risk increases. The step-by-step daily system. Here is how a fully running 7-tray system works. Once you understand the daily rhythm, you will see that this entire operation takes under 10 minutes per day. Day 0. Soaking. Measure out approximately 1.5 to 2 cups of dry barley seed per tray you are starting. This is roughly 1/4 to 1/3 of a pound of seed. Rinse the seed thoroughly in clean water. Then submerge it in clean water in your soaking bowl or jar for 12 hours. Do not exceed 24 hours for barley or wheat. After soaking, drain all the water. Rinse the seed one more time and let it drain completely before spreading it in your tray. Day 1. Spreading. Spread the soaked, drained seed evenly across the bottom of your tray. It should be a single, dense layer. Seed touching seed, but not stacked 2 or 3 deep, which causes uneven germination and mold pockets. Cover loosely with another tray or a cloth if light is an issue. Place it on the rack on days 2 through 6. Watering. Water each tray twice daily, once in the morning and once in the evening. The method that works best. Simply pour a cup or two of water gently over the tray until the entire surface is covered. Allow it to drain completely through the bottom holes into the shelf below and move on. The entire watering process for 7 trays takes about 4 minutes once you have your rhythm. Do not let water pool and sit in the trays. Sitting water is the primary cause of mold. Proper drainage is more important than the amount of water you use. Day 7. Harvest and replant. On day 7, your oldest tray will have a dense 4 to 6 inch green mat with a thick white root system visible underneath. The entire thing peels out of the tray in one unit, a fodder mat. Take this mat to your animals. They will consume the entire thing, roots, seeds, and green blades. Nothing is wasted. Rinse the empty tray with clean water, and if needed, a diluted apple cider vinegar rinse to prevent mold buildup. Then start a new tray with freshly soaked seed. When your system is fully running with 7 trays, you are starting 1 new tray and harvesting 1 finished mat every single day. The system perpetuates itself continuously. What does this actually cost to run? Let's run the real numbers for a 25-bird laying flock. We're at the recommended feeding rate of approximately 1/4 pound of fodder per standard-sized chicken per day. As a supplement, 25 birds consume roughly 6 to 7 pounds of fodder daily. 1 pound of barley seed produces 6 pounds of fodder. So you need approximately 1 to 1.25 pounds of barley seed per day for your flock. At 30 cents per pound of seed, that is 30 cents to 37 cents per day. Roughly $9 to $11 per month. To produce the fodder that replaces 30 to 50% of your purchased feed. Or if your 25-bird flock currently costs you $75 to $100 per month in commercial feed, replacing 40 to 50% of that with fodder costing $10 to $11 per month saves you $25 to $39 per month, or $300 to $470 per year, from a system that costs under $50 to build. For goats, a Nigerian dwarf doe weighing approximately 60 to 70 pounds should receive 3 to 5% of her body weight in fodder, which is approximately 2 to 3.5 pounds of fodder mat per day, alongside her regular hay ration. You do not replace hay for goats. You supplement it with fodder as a high nutrition addition. Mold is the #1 reason people quit their fodder system in the first 2 to 4 weeks. Their trays go fuzzy, the animals won't touch it, and they conclude that fodder doesn't work. So let's talk about this directly, because mold is preventable, once you understand why it happens. Mold grows when 3 conditions are met at the same time: moisture, warmth, and poor air circulation. Or every single mold problem in a fodder system comes from at least one of those 3. Here are the 6 most common causes of mold and the direct fix for each. Cause 1. Too much seed. Depth in the tray. When you pile seed too deep in a tray, the seeds at the bottom can't drain or breathe. They sit wet and become an ideal mold environment. The fix. Seed should be spread in a single, dense, even layer. 1 seed deep across the entire tray surface. No stacking. Cause 2. Poor drainage holes. If water is sitting in your tray rather than flowing through, mold will follow within 24 to 48 hours. Check that your drainage holes are not clogged by the root mat as it grows. If your tray is draining slowly after day 4, gently lift the edge of the mat and check. Additional holes drilled along the edges of the tray can help with later stage drainage. Cause 3. Too warm. If your sprouting space is consistently above 75 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, your mold risk increases substantially. A thermometer in your sprouting area is a worthwhile $5 investment. If your space runs warm, particularly in summer, move the system to a cooler room. Add a small fan for airflow or water 3 times daily instead of twice to keep the seed cooler and fresher. Cause 4. Over-soaking at the start. Soaking barley or wheat for more than 24 hours, or oats for more than 1 hour, creates conditions for mold to begin before the seed even goes into the tray. Or set a timer when you start your soak and be consistent about draining on schedule. Cause 5. Not rinsing. Trays between cycles. After each harvest, rinse your tray thoroughly. Root residue left in a tray seeds the next batch with mold spores. A quick rinse with a 1 to 20 dilution of apple cider vinegar and water is an effective, food-safe way to sanitize your trays between cycles. Multiple fodder growers confirm this works well. Do not use bleach. It is both unnecessary and potentially harmful to your animals even in trace amounts. Cause 6. Starting directly in trays instead of jars. This is the pro-level fix that makes the biggest single difference for mold control. Instead of putting your soaked seed directly into trays on day 1, sprout the seed first in a wide-mouthed jar for 24 to 36 additional hours, rinsing twice a day until a small 1/2 inch white sprout tail is visible on each seed, then transfer to the tray. Why does this work? Because seed that has already successfully begun germinating resists mold far better than unsprouted seed sitting wet in a tray. The active germination process itself is mildly antimicrobial. Homesteaders who adopted this jar-first method report dramatically lower mold rates, particularly in warmer months. It adds 1 extra step and about 2 minutes per tray, and it is worth every second. A word about white fuzz. Not all fuzz on a fodder mat is mold. Our root hairs, which are fine, white, almost hair-like structures that grow from the seed roots as they push through the mat, are often mistaken for mold by beginners. Root hairs are white, very fine, and evenly distributed along the root system. They have no smell. They do not harm the animals and are perfectly fine to feed. Mold, by contrast, is grayish, greenish, or black. It is fuzzy in a disorganized pattern. And it smells. If it smells bad, do not feed it. If it is white root hairs with no odor, you're fine. Let's nail down the feeding rates so your system is calibrated correctly from the start. These numbers come from verified sources including Mother Earth News, university extension recommendations, and well-documented homesteader practice. Chickens and quail. Feed approximately 2 to 3% of body weight in fodder daily as a supplement. For a standard laying hen weighing 5 to 6 pounds, this is roughly 1/4 pound of fodder per bird per day. For Coturnix quail weighing around 8 to 10 ounces, a small handful of sprout mat, or 1 to 2 tablespoons of young sprouts per bird per day is appropriate. Chickens and quail are the easiest animals to transition to fodder. They typically eat it immediately without any adjustment period. Important. Fodder is a supplement to, not a complete replacement for, a balanced poultry feed, particularly for laying hens. Commercial layer feed is formulated with specific calcium and phosphorus ratios that support shell quality. Fodder improves the overall nutritional picture and reduces how much commercial feed is consumed. But continue offering quality layer pellets or crumble-free choice alongside the fodder. Dairy goats. Feed approximately 3 to 5% of body weight in fodder daily. For a Nigerian dwarf doe weighing 65 pounds, this is approximately 2 to 3.25 pounds of fodder mat per day. For a milking doe, and aim toward the higher end of that range, she has higher nutritional demands. A ratio that works well for goats is 60% fodder and 40% hay. The hay provides the long fiber roughage that is essential for healthy rumen function. Do not eliminate hay from a goat's diet when adding fodder. The fiber is non-negotiable for rumen health. Goats sometimes take a few days to accept fodder, particularly if they have been on dry feed their whole lives. Or a drizzle of unsulfured blackstrap molasses over the mat for the first 2 to 4 days will encourage most goats to eat it enthusiastically. Once they've acquired the taste, the molasses is no longer needed. Rabbits. Feed 3 to 5% of body weight in fodder alongside hay. Rabbits, like goats, must maintain their hay intake for gut health. Rabbits tend to accept fodder quickly, and the benefits to coat quality and litter health are well documented in homestead literature. Transitioning animals to fodder. For any animal new to fodder, transition gradually over 7 to 10 days. Start by replacing 10 to 15% of their normal daily feed with fodder on day 1, and increase the proportion steadily over the following week. A sudden 100% switch can cause digestive upset, particularly in goats with sensitive rumen microbiomes. Go slow, watch for loose stool, and increase the fodder proportion only as the animal's digestion adjusts. Let me bring this all together with a real-world summary of what a properly running fodder system actually delivers. A single 50-pound bag of feed-grade barley, costing between $15 and $20 at most U.S. feed stores, produces approximately 300 pounds of sprouted fodder when processed through a 7-day tray system. That is enough daily fodder supplementation for a 25-bird laying flock for roughly 40 to 48 days, at a cost of 30 cents to 50 cents per day. And compare that to the cost of feeding 25 hens on commercial pellets alone, approximately $75 to $100 per month. And the math is clear. A fodder system that replaces 40 to 50% of purchased feed saves most small flock owners between $25 and $45 every single month. Over a year, that is $300 to $540 in feed savings from a $15 bag of grain, and $40 worth of trays and a shelf. And that is before you account for the improved egg quality, richer yolks that command higher prices at a farmer's market, or the improved milk production and butterfat content in your goats, or the reduced vet bills from healthier animals. These are the secondary returns that compound over time. Beyond the money, there is something worth saying about this system that I do not want to skip over. Running a fodder system reconnects you to a very old, our very simple act, the act of watching something grow. Every morning you walk over to that rack, and the trays from yesterday are visibly greener than they were 24 hours ago. There is nothing complicated about it. There is nothing high-tech about it. You are just doing what European farmers were doing in the 1800s, sprouting grain in winter to keep their animals fed when the pasture was bare. That kind of self-reliance, growing something real with your own hands, by knowing that your animals are eating well because of something you provided, is not a small thing. It is one of the reasons people get into homesteading in the first place. And this system, once it is running, gives you that feeling every single morning for about 7 minutes of your time. Subscribe right now and hit the bell for notifications.